Thanks for coming back on. It's great to chat to you.
Good to be back.
You were in Iceland for a long time. And you're from Australia, where everyone is spoiled with coffee and probably doesn't realize it. I think Bali presumably also has a very big like coffee culture. Like you always see nice pictures and stuff.
Might as well be like an extension of Australia in a lot of ways. Yeah, there's a lot of the cultural differences, but if you go to the kind of hot spots, I'm staying in Canggu at the moment, and it's a lot of like very Aussie style cafes.
Yeah.
Really good coffee, really fucking good food. And it's very cool. It's I don't know, and the waves are awesome too. It's a really good part of the world, man. It's we're very spoiled to have it on our doorstep.
What's coffee like in Iceland? Is it shit or is it okay?
There's a couple of places you can get good coffee, but the crazy thing about going to get coffee in Iceland is it's not a simple matter of, hey, I want to go get coffee, I'm going to walk out my front door. So we lived downtown Reykjavik, which when I say downtown, I mean in the part of the very small town that is Reykjavik. Reykjavik is a small town.
Yeah.
You think about the total population of Iceland's 300,000, 180,000, I think, live in Reykjavik. So that's not a big town by any stretch of the word, even though it's the capital. So it's not super easy to drive and park to places downtown. So for most of the good coffee shops, you got to walk. And there was one really good coffee shop that was about a 250 meter walk from our apartment. And it was like you could go weather pending. Okay. So it'd be like you get up, and it also doesn't open. They're not early risers like Australia, even Bali here. You can go and get a coffee at 6:30, 7 in the morning. Everything opens there. That coffee shop opened at 8:30, so it wasn't easy to get to. Go and rip in if I wanted to get a coffee before training. So yeah, you can get decent coffee. It's just it certainly doesn't have the same cafe culture though as Oz or Bali.
What's it like living there? Because like it's when a population is that small and when it's always been that small, is it like, does that lead to like a kind of an insular cult? Like are they a bit like protective of it? Like were you a bit of an outlier or were you like welcomed pretty quickly? Or
everyone was super friendly. I found there was a fair bit of cultural difference. Like even just being in the States, for example, for the last month, or even being in Bali now, just being around like Aussies and other Europeans and stuff like that, I found the Icelandic people to be quite reserved, which isn't a negative thing at all. It just means it makes it harder as someone that's like an introverted extrovert. So I might present as very extroverted, but I'm not the type of person to go up and start speaking to a stranger. However, if a stranger comes and starts talking to me, I'll talk their ear off underwater with a mouthful of marbles. So it's kind of like to go and to just like make friends and to meet new people was really challenging for me, as opposed to being in America where you just rock up to a bar and you speak and within 5 minutes you're in a conversation with people. Or the same here. I suppose here it's different. You kind of see how people recognize that you're from Oz and they hear the same accent, they go from there. But yeah, it certainly wasn't. I didn't find it super easy to kind of meet people. Like that cultural difference was really prevalent until they go out and get pissed, and then they it's different, very different.
When you were there, a lot of so you started doing a podcast when you were there, and I guess that was like, like a hobby to kind of eat up some time, and it's dark and stuff. The weather, not the podcast. So how did you find doing that? Like, because obviously you've guested on other shows and stuff, and that's one experience, I suppose. But then doing it yourself and putting in the groundwork, and then I suppose like, were you surprised at like the process or the reception to it or the engagement from it? Did any of that kind of stuff surprise you?
Yeah, it was hard doing the solo episodes, just especially when I was coming up with my own topics and doing the research. And it's funny, I did there was this one episode that I was so proud of that I did so much fucking research on. I had really thorough notes on, and it was the one episode that I had a lot of people reach out and just be like, dude, I just got lost. Like I had no idea what the fuck you were talking about. And you just went way too deep down these rabbit holes. what was really interesting, I think for me, the journey that podcast put me on, and this is a part of a journey that's been like a bigger journey that's happened over the last 6 months, I think, was becoming okay with the idea that people are interested in me and I'm allowed to be an interesting person just in my own right. Like I'm okay. I'm someone that people want to listen to in some capacity, and like I have fans. So here's me thinking, if I'm going to start this podcast, it has to be like wildly informative, incredibly well researched, and provide just so much value and information. But the episodes that I got the best feedback from were the ones, like particularly the Q&A sort of format that I've done recently, where people would send me Instagram messages and I would just answer them based on my own stories and experiences. And people seem to really like that. And that was weird for me, because I'm someone that tends to be more hypercritical and would have originally, and really wrestled at the start of starting that, like the podcast, really wrestled with the idea of me just talking about me. And I thought that's like, I didn't like that. I thought that was self-indulgent. But it seems to be that that's what people want to hear. They want to hear my perspective. They want to hear my stories. So that's kind of helped alleviate, I think, some of the anxiety that I felt around having to make the each episode like crazily well researched. And I'll still do a little bit of reading and stuff like that. I'm hoping to start doing some more regular podcasting with someone else, with an offsider who shall not be named as of yet, because I don't want to be like, yeah, we're doing this. But I think it will make for a really cool dynamic, me and this person doing regular podcasting, if we can make it happen.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know why I'm being so secretive about it. Me and Yami talked about doing one together. Like, I don't know why that was. I don't know why.
No, that veil of secrecy dropped really quickly. I didn't even have to ask.
I thought it was really mysterious and cool. But no, Yami and I talked about doing one together in the future, and I think we would have a really cool dynamic. I mean, he's the smartest dude I've ever met.
Oh man, I heard him on Savans. Like I think I listened to it driving from Amsterdam from Brussels to Amsterdam. And it got me most of the way there. Oh my God. He is like, I just got lost listening to him. He's so intelligent, so intelligent.
It's one of my favorite podcasts is, I don't know if you've listened to the Absolutely Mental series. So it's Ricky Gervais and Sam Harris.
Okay.
And I think their dynamic is just fantastic. And I think that's kind of the way that we want to go down. They're phenomenal. And obviously, Ricky Gervais, the comedian, and then Sam Harris is like a neuroscientist, philosopher, who's wildly intelligent human being. And so Ricky will like ring him with this ridiculous question, and then they'll kind of riff back and forth. But Ricky has a background in philosophy himself, and obviously being a comedian, he's not an unintelligent guy. And so I thought it'd be I think that's kind of the vibe we're going to go for. And I just think it's so much easier for two people to sit down and riff regularly than to kind of do it yourself. But I've been doing mostly the Q&As, and they've been fun. I get asked great questions when I do those Q&As. I get asked like such a cool spectrum of questions, from fitness stuff, obviously people wanting to know fitness stuff, to wildly personal things that I'm like, why the fuck would I tell you that? Like, who the fuck do you think you are to ask me a question that personal? To like just the blatantly thirsty guys and girls, and then just the really deep existential, brilliant questions that I'll read and then I'll sit and mull over for a while, because I'm like, fuck, that is a good question. So that makes those shows pretty interesting. So that might be fun to do some stuff like that with Yami as well, ask him some of these questions.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be good. So you moved to Iceland you were traveling, so you kind of had a weird like start to the year, I suppose. You're at Wadapalooza, you were kind of traveling around, you were with James for a good while, you were going around Europe, and you were in you did a competition in Denmark, I think, didn't you? And you were around like Spain and France, and
dude, I got So when when I didn't qualify for the games last year and I got through to the last chance qualifier, I figured I had a very good shot of qualifying through the last chance qualifier just based on how competitive the Australian region is and having only just missed out there. So I anticipated, well, first of all, and then we started to go back down into lockdown in Australia, and I could start to see all these rules coming back into place. So I applied to leave Australia to do the last chance qualifier, and then as if I would be doing the games after that, because you had to apply to get leave to leave the country. So I applied for that. The application didn't come back in time. Actually, the application returned back positive the Sunday night after I submitted my final last chance qualifier workout score. And so I just missed the games again in the last chance qualifier, but I had this basically ability to leave and go overseas. And then the day after that, I got asked to be on the demo team. So I had the ability to get out of the country. I got asked to be on the demo team, and I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to go over. No real plans. I had some stuff in Portugal lined up, which was a bit of a shit show, to be honest. Like a retreat that was set up over there, and then I had a few various bits and pieces, like activities that I could kind of do throughout the off season if I wanted to just float around and sort of be taken care of, do some comps where the organisers offered to look after me. And then James was on the demo team, so I picked up Jimmy, and the two of us went to Vegas the week after, introduced him to a life of sin that he's just taken to fantastically. And yeah, the two of us were just like, we've always been mates as insofar as competitors are buddies, but we were just two peas in a pod. The two of us just got along like a house on fire, and he's so easy to travel with. We're both just massive yes men, where it's like, hey, do you want to do this? It's like, yeah, let's do that. And then, but we're also super comfortable just being on our own too. There was never that pressure to kind of do stuff. But then at the same time, we were both so quick to do pretty much any cool suggestion. And so we kind of fucked around and just did our thing for a few months, did a couple of competitions. And yeah, I basically stayed out of the country until borders reopened and there was no quarantine, and I could get a flight for less than $2,000 back to Australia, because they were about $8-9 grand. And that meant that I was out of Oz until early December. I got home, and then I was home for, it would have been 4 weeks before I was off to Wodapalooza, and then from Wodapalooza straight to Iceland. So I've been home for a while. That's weird.
Are you nervous about going home, or are you excited?
Mixed. It's mixed, man. Like, I don't have a home. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It was weird how quickly and easily when I got home over the Christmas period, I just dropped back into that routine. It was kind of like nothing had changed. I feel like that 6 months probably was because like Australia was in lockdown, but I feel like now like so much has happened in the last 6 months. I have some of my best friends have had babies that I haven't met yet. Some of them have got engaged, and I haven't seen them since they've got engaged and stuff like that. So there's a hell of a lot that's been happening back home in the last 6 months that, I mean, I don't, these are people that I've known for many years, and I'm not, like, I'm my best mate come and visit me in Iceland and stuff like that. He will walk through the door actually any minute now and pick up some of his keys, because he's just flown back to Bali today from Malaysia. But I don't know. It's mixed feelings about going home. I think I'm excited. I think something that I have thought a lot about for a variety of reasons is being away from Australia for this amount of time. Is Australia always going to be home? Is that home for me? And I think at the moment, I feel like a resounding yes, like that I'm excited to go home because I miss home and I miss this place that is a part of me and that I feel so attached to. But who knows? Fuck, like, I might get back there and just be like, man, get the fuck out of here again. I don't know. It's a weird feeling, man. But yeah, I think more than anything, excitement about being back.
Yeah, no, I get that, because I think that, like you say, when you were away the last time, you know, the way people say, like, oh, well, the world doesn't stop spinning, like, just because you're gone or whatever, like, but it kind of did. Like, so the first time you were gone, it kind of did stop spinning. Like, nothing was happening, no one was going anywhere, no one was doing anything. But now it's like you actually have stuff to catch up on. Whereas the last time it was just like, anything happened? No, not really. Now it's like, yeah, like shit tons of stuff happened.
When I think as well, the 6 months that I was away last year, I was bouncing around from place to place, living out of a suitcase, doing lots of random bits and pieces. Whereas the last 6 months, I was just in Iceland, in Reykjavik, and I experienced a range of challenges there that really did make me appreciate back home. You know, the weather being one really obvious one, the pace of life being another, the culture being another, the lack of access to my friends, family, and the support network that I do have
Like,
back in
time difference is tricky, like, because
That's
it's not like
crazy.
you can just
Almost
contact
reversed.
someone.
Yeah, it's almost reversed. And even then, it just gets to a point where you're just like, I don't know. There's only, yeah, with the time difference being the way that it is, and just the nature of the monotony of what we were doing, it was kind of almost weird setting aside time to catch up with people. Just feel like you're having the same conversation over and over again. Oh, what are you doing? Working out all day, every day. What are you guys doing? Going to work every day. And it's not that same. I don't know. It's just something different about, particularly when it's irregular catch ups like that, that it's just not the same as going down the pub for a beer and everyone just talking shit, telling stories, and just having that laugh. And I really missed like my friends and family and my support network back there. I really missed the weather, missed Koa, obviously my dog. And yeah, like I think being there for 6 months and being in the one place more so than traveling last year made me miss home too. The other thing as well is like we were on a really strict and tight schedule. Like we were Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We were in the gym at 9 a.m. till about 11:30, maybe later, and then back in the gym from 1:30 till we finished up for the day. And that could be anywhere from like 3:30 all the way through to 5 or 6, depending on how much volume we had to do. So then on Wednesday, we would typically have something else to do, which meant that we couldn't really do much then. And then come Saturday evenings, we might take a bigger break during the day because Annie would have time with Freya. So we would finish on a Saturday afternoon, 5:30 sometimes, and we'd just be so zonked from, like a lot of programs, they do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest Thursday, train Friday, Saturday. We train Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, or active recovery Wednesday, then train Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So come Saturday evening, that's the end of your third day in a row of high volume training. You're absolutely wrecked. So you go home, and we wouldn't do, very seldom did we do anything. I think I can count on one hand the number of times we kind of went and did something on a Saturday evening. And then Sunday, you're just dead. All you wanted to do was just lay around. I think I spent so many Sundays, honestly, where I barely left the home, just left the house to go and get food, and that was about it. And yeah, so that I think made me miss home. That made me miss the freedom to sort of set my own schedule. It's sometimes like I think what I need is something midway between, probably more towards the schedule that I had in Iceland, but just with like that little bit more flexibility that I could get back home. But yeah, it definitely made me appreciate Australia and being back there.
Well, even like you said, so I've seen you say multiple times that this is the fittest you've ever been, and that you haven't lost any of your strength numbers, and your body fat is down, and you're in the best condition as an athlete that you've ever been in. I guess like that's probably the payoff. Like the that's the harsh reality is that like something has to suffer. So if you're in Sydney and you're like going out for beers or going out for coffee or whatever, your fitness and conditioning will suffer. And then the flip side of that is if you're in Iceland, your social circle is going to suffer, I suppose.
Yeah, it's 100% what the payoff is, and it's something that, I mean, like even in that, there was lessons in that, and there was some cool growth that I took from that, from exactly that, which was that understanding that if I had a powerful enough goal, if I was able to, like, being there gave me the confidence to set goals way bigger than I'd ever set before. And having those bigger goals meant that going through the shit, and I use the word shit, lightly, because it wasn't that fucking bad. Like, I'm a full-time athlete. I work out for jobs. So, I mean, it's hard, but it's not that bad. But like, that was all made okay because I was so anchored to this goals, not only the goals for this season, but for next year as well, and looking toward the future, that it made those difficulties so much more bearable, and those difficulties so much more, like, they almost weren't difficulties, they were just part of the process. It was just like, fuck yeah, you know what, I'm fucking bored on a Saturday night and everyone I know is out and they're doing cool shit and I've got FOMO or whatever, but that's cool. I'm just going to sit in bed and I'm just going to put a movie on. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to cook dinner or whatever it is. Just go. And that it makes, I don't know, it made that less challenging. And I absolutely couldn't have done that in Sydney. There is no way in hell. And even my mates back home, they all said the same thing. They're just like, this is the environment you had to go to do that. And it was, I went home for 4 weeks and I was blown out most of that time. I think I was probably on the piss like 4 days a week, at least, that each week, the entire time I was there. It was summer, it was over Christmas, everyone was off. All my buddies were back in Oz at that point in time as well. And going to Iceland was kind of like, this is detox.
Rehab.
Rehab, man. And like, we joked around about that, but seriously, in a way it was, because it was like, here you go. No. And the level of expectation from the team and from the coaching staff was such that you couldn't get away with shit. I wanted to go out and get on the piss. There was never an opportunity for me to do it because it would just affect my training too much. And there was so much accountability and so much expectation that you couldn't do it. And there's just no way I would have that in Sydney. Not just because of the people around me, but because my friends and stuff. It was just no one. I've never trained with a group of people that training was their priority. It was like, we'll train with you. Like, this is in Sydney. I have my mates that will train with me if it suits them, if they've got the time, if they can be fucked, if they're not hungover, if there's not one of 100 other things that they'd rather be doing that they could do instead. I mean, fuck me, I can't tell you how many times it was just a nice day, it was getting to summer and we'd be like, fuck, afternoon session or the beach, boys, and we just go to the beach. Like, there's just no way that would happen in Iceland with this crew. You fucking idiot. Like, no, we train. We're supposed to train now. We train. So, yeah, I couldn't have done what I did in Sydney. It's why I'm 99.9% sure I'll be back there pretty soon in Iceland. So, another year of fucking sitting and looking at snow out my window and go from
there. When you got the call about joining the team, was all of that made clear? Like, was it implicit or was it stated like, if you want to do this, if you want to come, your life is going to change drastically for 6 months? Or was it like, did you get there and you were like, oh, okay, like, really all in?
Yeah. So Annie, funnily enough, we went out for dinner after the games and Annie came and sat down across from Tola and I. She's like, I have a question for you. Yeah. And she goes, was your experience coming to Iceland what you expected? And Tola was like, yeah. And I was like, absolutely not. In my head, I was signing up to go team. I'm thinking, cool, we might train together 3 times a week. That's awesome. I'll have the rest of the week too, as long as I get my training done. And I'm a master of getting my training done to maximize my time to do other shit. So I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll just figure out a way to get my training done. I'll be able to go and explore Iceland whenever I want to, do the team training sessions when I've got to do them. Then I might probably long weekend in Spain one weekend. I'll fuck off to Ibiza for a weekend as well. We go to the Greek Isles. And I'm thinking I'm going on this wonderful 6-month, basically all expenses paid European holiday. And I'm going, you beauty, like, and I've got to do a little bit of fitness sprinkled in amongst it. And I knew it would be serious, but I was thinking, I thought we'd have a lot more freedom, a lot more downtime, and I would be just a European fucking holiday. And Annie just was bewildered by the fact that I thought that. And Tola just goes, I absolutely knew that was what you were thinking when you agreed. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of a baptism in fire. Like particularly James and I flew 36 hours to get to Wodapalooza. Did Wodapalooza. That's a 4-day event. So you compete for 4 days. Went out that night, fucking sent it. Didn't finish up that night till like 5, 6 the next morning. Had the next day, flew to Iceland. And then we arrived in Iceland Wednesday morning local time. We had Wednesday to kind of get into our place. And then Thursday, we immediately started training. 2 sessions a day. I'm thinking it's the start of the season. Maybe we're coming in, we're going to do like one session. It'll be like 90 minutes to 2 hours. Just going to ease our way in. It was like, no, we were still in the gym twice a day for 2 to 4 hours each time, or 2 to 3 hours each time. From literally the second day we got there, less than 24 hours after arriving, I was in the gym, starting session 1 of the first block of training that we used to kind of work up to the games. And that's that. I kept thinking, like, when the fuck are we going to get downtime? Like, when the fuck, like, what's going on? And the other thing that blew me away as well was the intensity. It's like the level of attention to detail was cool. Everything we did, it was so much information being thrown so quickly that it felt like I was going to school each day. That I was going to school. Yami was a teacher. Annie, Frederick, Tola, all the other people there were teachers, and I was just learning as much as I could from each of them while I was there. But so that was cool. The attention to detail was one thing. The mental strain, like the mental load of that was not insignificant. And so that was something that took me by surprise. But the other thing that blew me away was the intensity. Like, they fucking sent it every time we did a cardio session. Every single metabolic piece, unless it's programmed as like zone 2 or programmed with the stimulus being heavy or skill focused, it's like fucking go. So in those initial 3 months, and this is like the program that I put together that you can buy on my website, is those first 3 months that we were training there. And I feel like it's an interesting one because you could follow it, you can just kind of do it, you could get through the workouts that are written down there, but understanding that every single time that there was something programmed where there was where you elevated your heart rate, and it didn't dictate that it was not meant to be hard, it didn't dictate that it was aerobic or zone 2 effort, you are literally selling your fucking soul trying to beat Annie Thorisdottir, Katrin Davidsdottir, Björgvin Carl Goodmanson, King Bakesy. Like, between the 3 of those alone, there's 12 CrossFit Games medals, podiums, 4 championships. And those are the people every day. And then not to diminish Tola and Lauren as well. Like, I mean, Tola's phenomenal at what he does too, like the strength stuff. That is you're going in, and that took me by surprise as well. Seeing like, oh, holy shit, like these guys want to win every fucking interval of every single training session that we're doing. You got to keep up. It rocked me for a little while. It took my body a while to adjust, but once I had some health issues, some ongoing health issues throughout the season that pretty much came good by the time I got to the US, or just after when I got to the US. Honestly, it was the first time in the whole season that I was actually healthy, which has been it's a whole story in of itself. I've still got to go home and get a bunch of testing and stuff done to figure out what the fuck was going on.
It traveled up with or flared up with travel and stuff. Is it fine now though?
Yeah, touch wood, it's okay now.
Okay,
I mean, I was a little bit hit and miss when I first got to the US. I was struggling with some breathing, but I wasn't coughing, which was really good. It just felt like, I don't know, there's just some issues with my diaphragm, but which is most likely caused by the chronic coughing. But yeah, touch wood, the cough is all but gone. And that's, I think you saw in Amsterdam how bad it was then. Like, it was to the point where when it would flare up, I couldn't string a sentence together. I just start coughing. And We think it's chronic bronchitis as a result of getting COVID last year, and it kind of just irritating. I went to see a specialist in the UK, and it was to do with, he talked about having an irritated nerve in my throat from coughing so much that just meant that I was incredibly susceptible to any kind of pollen, allergens, change in temperature, change in climate, which would cause me to pick, or just germs and diseases. So just getting chronic bronchitis. But there's a lot of other stuff that says it could be allergy related. So I'm going to go and do a full spectrum of tests when I get home to see what it is. But yeah, touch wood, it's good at the moment. It was fantastic during the games. It didn't flare up at all, nor did it really flare up when I was in the US. But after I saw you in London, when I'd gone and seen the specialist, he was the one who gave me all this medication, and I got on the medication and I was good to go. And then I got fucking COVID. And so I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? But yeah, managed to string together a healthy games, which was really cool. But other than that, it was wild, that intensity, but it was so good.
Did you know? So you knew Tola was on demo team last year as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So you knew him from that, and like from what I gather, that's quite a camaraderie based thing. Like you end up just becoming friends with the people that you're on demo team with. It seems like a good time. Outside of like, oh, I've competed against him or with her or whatever. Did you know any of the others? Did you know Yami or BK, or was it just purely from like being in the sport?
No, like I bumped into Annie at a couple of competitions, spoken to her there, same with Frederick, same again. Kat, I'd not really had anything to do with prior to this season, like at all. I didn't know her well. Lauren, same again, didn't really know her at all. Tola knew through the demo team. It's like we kept in super regular contact, but kind of enough to have a yarn here and there. And then, same thing with Yami. I think I drunkenly told Yami at the 2021 after party that I'd followed the training plan and I thought it was really cool. And that was about the only thing I'd spoken to him. And BK and I had a couple of conversations, and I'm usually drunk at the after parties of the games over the years. But other than that, it was effectively just complete. I mean, not strangers, because I knew them, and, you kind of get a feel for their character just based on their presence and how famous they are within the CrossFit world. But no, I didn't really know any of them.
Yeah, it's a testament to you though, that like the impact that you've had on those people. Because I know, like you say there, you were like, oh, they were all teachers and I was just kind of learning stuff. But like, it's it's interesting the fact that you clearly brought a level of lightheartedness that was like probably missing, like as in there was an element of like a lack of balance where like it could become too serious and too intense and too like demanding mentally and stuff. And I think you offered just a bit of a break in between that was probably needed more than maybe they realized it was. And it's also a testament to you, the fact that like not only the impact that you've had on them, but like you've essentially written a book with Yami and you're talking about doing a podcast with him, and like he doesn't do things like that really. And like
he's the
I know more about BK now than I ever knew, or I've seen more of him, or I've seen a different side of him than I ever would have seen, I think, had you not gone to Iceland.
Yeah, which is good. I think BK is one of, if not my favorite male competitors, because he's so fucking good and he doesn't get anywhere near enough the attention he deserves. He's a fucking character, man. Like, good dude, funny as fuck when you get to know him, has a wicked sense of humor. And these people, it was really cool because what I think I was able to do was help them be more of themselves as who they are outside of these athlete and coaching personas, and I think I look at probably the only other environment in which I maybe did something like that was when I was playing Grid, when they did that back in the day. And I remember we finished the first match where I was able to go over with the team, and I was like, well, where are we going now to celebrate? They're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, fucking, we just won. We don't have to play again tomorrow. Let's go and get pissed and fucking have some food and tell some stories, have some laughs, make some memories, because that's how you bond with people. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like for me, something that I'm super conscious of is in those sorts of environments, and particularly around people like that are quite serious and that set huge goals. And I think it's phenomenal they do set these huge goals, because I think it's really important, and I think that that's a testament to their character, and again, something I admire about all of them. But we're just a bunch of people exercising quickly, and I think if you get too caught, if you lose sight of that, then I think it can become, I don't know. Like I think, and this is from my own experience. I've had being an athlete be an extremely negative thing, an extremely negative part of my life. And I'm older now. I'm 32, and so if I can use the gift of the wisdom of age to kind of bring a certain type of approach to to training and to that sort of stuff, it's creating an environment in which people are allowed to, first of all, just express themselves, but like, man, just to feel good and to smile. Like I think, yeah, I don't know, it's like something that I'm super, if you something I think that was one of these things that I wrote down, that's like something that like I really try to live my life by, and that's, if you have an opportunity to make someone smile, you should take it, because that's a really special thing. It's a really special gift that person gives you, in that you're able to positively affect their mood. And so, yeah, like it was something that I was conscious of, and I had my bad days as well. I had my days where I was in a shit and foul mood and I didn't want to talk to anyone. But fuck, it's long days. We're all there. We're all out of our comfort zone. We're all out of our element. A lot of us don't know other people. So, whilst I actually think that our team's dynamic was phenomenal, there was, compared to some of the stories that I've heard from other teams and situations, we really didn't ever clash that I can think of, like significantly at all. There was one time that Tola and I went in and trained earlier than didn't tell Annie, and she got annoyed at us. But like honestly, and when I say annoyed, it was just like, she's like, I'm annoyed at you and I'm going to tell you because I don't want to hold on to it. And we're like, okay, cool. Here's why we trained early. And she's like, that's fine. I'm still annoyed. And we're like, cool, sweet. Thank you for telling us. And that was the end of it. We're just like adults behaving
like
adults.
a very polite argument.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know, like that vibe was cool. But yeah, I know definitely, like I've grown extremely close to a lot of them, and that's the reason we're going back. Yami sat me down before we went to the States even, and sort of gave me we had a long conversation about what he believes I bring to the training group, which was really quite humbling, but also what he believes I'm capable of as an athlete if we're able to spend time together, and if we're able to spend a significant amount of time together working as coach and athlete. So yeah, he I hadn't really thought too much about 2023. I had thought about 2023, but I really hadn't genuinely considered going back to Iceland until we sat down and had those two conversations that we did have. And so yeah, I'm not, as I said, I'm 99% sure, barring any kind of crazy changes in my life circumstances, I'll go back pretty early and knuckle down for a fucking full winter in that hellhole of a fucking place. No, it's not a hellhole of a place. The fucking volcano's going off now. It's sick. But yeah, like I'll go back, and that, I think, I was very, very chuffed, very humbled to have been asked to come back. So yeah, keen.
Yeah, that must be remarkable, especially when it's him and someone that you admire and someone who doesn't mince words. Like, I don't think he would have said anything had it not been, like, he's not going to placate you. It'd be like, hey, you're great, you should come back. Oh God, I hope he doesn't come back. Like
he's a straight shooter. And that's the thing about that is, and this is crazy as well, and it's funny, I spoke to someone the other day and they're just like, the way you speak about yourself has changed over the last 6 months. And that kind of floored me, because I've always been someone that I don't think I've ever had genuine confidence in myself, even as an athlete that's performed at the very highest levels for an extended period of time. And I think I would do things like always have something else to fall back on. I'd be an athlete and a student, athlete and a socialite / party guy, athlete and traveler, like traveling the world, like doing, it was always something else that I was doing that kind of gave me, it was almost like a little
Safety
walking
net or an excuse
to
or
lean on that.
yeah.
Yeah, not an excuse because I was still committed to it, but it was kind of like a way that I was able to divide my attention amongst other things, because then if I failed, I at least had that to kind of fall back on and to use as myself. So I didn't see myself as a complete failure. And I think it's because I just genuinely didn't have confidence. I'd never been like, there's probably been times where people might have thought that I was confident or cocky or arrogant, whatever, when I was younger. But a lot of the time that just comes down to the fact that I'm shy. And also that, there was a period in my time I was struggling with figuring out who I was as a person. And so that being kind of showing that I had this kind of confidence about me, probably tried to put that on more than I genuinely was. But I'm confident and I have this confidence in myself that I've never had before. And I wrote a whole chapter in that book about confidence, the Fire and Ice book that I put together. And it's just like, yeah, what that has meant for me and what that means for me in terms of, moving forward and how I, being willing to go all in on being an athlete. There's like nothing else. That is what I'm going to do for the next 12 months. I'm just an athlete. There's no fucking school. There's no starting a business here. There's no doing that. There's no traveling for fun. Like I've got my month here in Bali, and then everything I do will be based around being an athlete. How can I become the best version of myself? And that's something that's come about from being in that environment, from not only Yami, but from being around these other people that I've looked up to the entire time that I did the sport. And then I just assumed they were there. They were a category of athlete and human being that existed beyond the realm of what was possible for me. They weren't, I was going to go to Iceland and I was going to be like the little, let's like kind of just nurture this little guy through and like make sure he does it. And it's like, well, no, by the end, we're going tit for tat on pretty much every workout. And, I have things that I still need to work on. And if they showed up, then potentially I'd get dusted. But otherwise, I was beating them. Like I was in the mix for everything. And just having those benchmarks and having not only Yami, but the other athletes be like, hey, like Annie being like, you are like good and stuff like that. And it sounds so fucking stupid. But yeah, I think the level of confidence I've developed in the last 6 months is cool. Now, I can say all that. I could put my whole heart and soul into the next 12 months and, whatever avenue I go down, whether it be team or individual, not get any kind of special outcome. But what I'm excited to do is to see what I am capable of. And I would have never had the confidence never had the confidence or the drive to do that without the input from these people around me.
But it's interesting, like even it's the same. I had the same experience with BK. So I interviewed him about 2 years ago, and I enjoyed talking to him, but I found him like reserved. I found him like kind of careful or, just like considered in what he was saying. And it was like, and I remember at the time Snorri being like, oh, he doesn't do this. Like he doesn't do a lot of these. So we're trying to get him out there more and blah, blah. And I remember while talking to him more or less intimating like, well, who gives a fuck what I have to say? Like that was his kind of attitude on it. And I sort of felt the same when I talked to you the first time, where like there was a part of you that like you were giving and you were saying things, but there was like an undertone of like, but that's just my opinion, maybe that's stupid, or maybe that doesn't make sense, or there was always a caveat at the end of things you said or whatever. So I definitely understand what your friend, like, there's been a big shift, as in like physically, from looking at you, you're visibly in the best shape you've ever been in from looking at you, and then mentally you seem more confident, more like, I don't know, just more yourself or more. And again, that could be just like that was the first time we spoke, and more familiarity breeds more comfortability or comfortableness or whatever.
I guess it's that, going back to that thing of like, I grew up in an environment in which Australia is an interesting place. I don't know if you heard of the saying "tall poppy syndrome." Do you know what that means? So it's
No.
like the tall poppy. So the flower, the poppy that sits higher than the others, you cut it down so it's the same height as the other poppy.
Okay, yeah, I get
It's
you.
a thing. It's a concept in Australia, tall poppy syndrome, which basically, like, if you try to stand out in any way, shape, or form, everyone's going to want to bring you back down. And I very much fell victim to that when I was younger, because I mean, it started when I was in primary school. I wanted extra homework. I wanted to learn so I could be smart, because I wanted to like, I didn't want to be dumb. Like, I wanted to do well at school. And I remember, and then I wanted to do well at the sports that I did. And so I put in the effort. And it's funny, like, there's another saying in Australia, like, you get called a tryhard, and it's an insult. It's like one of the worst insults someone can call you is like a tryhard. We actually stop and break that down for a second and think about what the fuck that means. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And it's funny, like, I remember at the start of the season when we put the team together, like, reading the comments, which I shouldn't do, but I do every now and again. And someone had commented and they sort of said, like, oh, that, something about how Annie was good, but Lauren was a has-been, Tola was a never was, and I was a try-hard. And it was really fucking triggering for me, because I fucking hate that word, because it brings me back to those days where, as a kid, caring about something or wanting to be good at something was just seen as such a negative, which is so fucking weird when you think about it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you put in too much effort. It's like, what?
Yeah, you care too much about that. Why do you care so much? Like, get over it. Or, like, why? Like, it is, and it's this horrible part of Australian culture. And it's kind of like it kind of disappears when you're actually successful at something. Like, when you do make it at something, then everyone will get behind you. But caring and trying and, like,
I don't think. I mean, I don't think that's unique to Australia. I think that's an Irish thing too.
yeah,
Although I suppose a lot of Australians originated in Ireland or whatever. But like,
so
like there's a
America.
Yeah, but there's a definite, like, people want you to fail when you start something new because they didn't think of doing it, or they didn't whatever. Like, I don't have an ego about what I'm doing at all, or I don't think it's important, or I don't think it's, like, I don't think I'm great or anything like that. But sometimes I'll be at a competition or something, and I'll see people who I know what I do and who I am and stuff. And I don't mean that in a, like, who I am, but, I know that they can't not know because they're in the same circles, who will actively avoid they'll be like, I wouldn't give him the fucking pleasure of, like, acknowledging that I know who he is, or admitting that, like, I wouldn't fucking please him to say hello or whatever. So I don't think, I mean, maybe it came from Ireland and spread over to Australia and the ships or whatever. But, like, I think there is a definite, like, sore thumbs get hit. Like, if you have a stub toe, you're going to keep hitting it. And if you, like, that tall poppy thing, like, is just a perfect analogy for it, where I think
I just copped it and I copped it in so many ways, like, for sport, for the way I looked and stuff like that as I got older. And I always felt like I could never be proud of anything that I did well at, and this is like this has been a huge. I could never celebrate my success. I always had to underplay it. I always had to downplay it. I always had to give that caveat of, oh, this is just my opinion, so, like, it means nothing. It's like, there's this fantastic meme, and in the meme it's like it's like anxious people or people pleasing people, like, asking for something, and it's like, hey, can I borrow? Hey, would you be able to help me move house on this day? So fine if you don't want to do it. Actually, I'm so sorry for asking. Like, if you want to hit me with your car and run me over 3 times, totally fine. I was way out of line there. And it's this funny ass meme. It's like, I feel like that embodies how I've always seen myself for so long. And there's fucking levels to this. Being in an environment where I was able to be around other people who were successful and who were proud of their success and who would speak from that position of authority without batting an eyelid, and then ask for my opinion in the same way as well. That was really, really cool. It's like, here's these people I respect, and they go about doing that, and I'm able to kind of be in that environment as well. Second of all, I'm light years beyond anything I've ever, like in terms of how much progress I've had in the last 6 months. I feel like I've got so much that I can speak on about that. But also over and above that, just my own personal growth over the last 6 to 12 months, particularly, I've put a huge focus for a variety of reasons. I think there were some really dark times that I went through with some personal stuff in my life during my time in Iceland. And I found myself in a position where I really had to start fucking looking at reasons why, like start looking at being okay with being okay, being okay with being good, being okay with being proud of myself, being okay with looking for positives about myself. I think I'm a very introspective person, and I've always kind of championed self-awareness and sort of self-analysis as this superpower of sorts. And I realized over the course of the last 6 months, particularly, that it's a superpower until it's not. It's a really powerful thing until it can become a really dangerous thing if you are someone that has like a more negatively inclined mind, someone that sits higher on the neuroticism spectrum, if you're going to go down the personality psych way. And I realized that 90% of the time when I'm sitting and I'm doing some philosophical meditation, I'm doing some journaling, I'm doing some deep thinking, I'm doing some writing, I'm thinking about something that I perceive to be wrong with me. And I'm thinking about some way that I can improve myself or that I can change myself to make myself better because I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
It's always kind of that analysis it's analyzing my deficits of character, my deficits as a human being. And it was this profound, fucking eye-opening and ongoing. I'm not fucking perfect at it. Hey, life's good. I'm in Bali. I've just come from the CrossFit Games. I feel really proud of my efforts and the way that I performed at the games, which is cool. That's a cool feeling. I've never walked away from the CrossFit Games ever in my entire life proud of my performance, ever. That's fucking wild. Actually, just thinking about that now is a little bit mind-blowing. But anyway, that's a cool thought. But it's an ongoing thing. I'm in a cool environment now, so I feel good. I'm talking to you and I feel great right now. But I certainly don't feel brilliant all the time. But yeah, for the last 6 months, I've been consistently making an effort to pay more attention and to give more credit to myself and to be okay with my success, to be okay with being proud of myself, to not have to sort of make sure that I'm not, showing that pride and showing that. I think it was another big thing, like within my household as well. We were always told, like, it was bizarre. I had parents that were in the best possible way. Like, I love my parents. I talk a lot about sort of the way that I was raised, I think, and I may make it seem like it's negative, but it's not. I'm so thankful for the parents that I have. But it was like, trying your best was way more important than being successful.
I get you.
It's almost like the antithesis of what everyone's about these days, where it was like, get a participation trophy because everyone should be a winner, versus actually go in there and fucking rip their heads off and try to win. I was like, that dynamic where I was a competitive person. I wanted to be the best at stuff. It was almost like that was vilified more than just participating and trying your best and all that kind of stuff. It was like, and then that just fed into the whole idea of that tall poppy syndrome. Yeah, I mean, like, there's fucking layers and layers and years of self-deprecating and like self-deprecation and sort of negative self-analysis that I'm having to try and slowly peel back and get past in so many areas. But it's really cool because being an athlete is now one of those areas that I feel like I have actually made huge progress in that.
Yeah, but it's even like it's spreading to, like, say, now I know that you're working with James and Seska, and you've got like there's a PR group, and like it's the value that you're obviously seeing in yourself, or like the potential that you're seeing in yourself, is opening up avenues that otherwise would have remained closed, because now you're saying like, oh, I see enough value in myself to have a manager, rather than just like, oh, I'll just do it myself. It's fine.
No, I always had a manager. It just wasn't.
Well, you're.
But it was being willing to say, hey, I'm worth more than what I'm being.
Yeah.
Not worth more, but like I'm allowed to go and start working with this better management group because rather than just like, oh, just do that, just stay where I'm at. Yeah, like, I'm definitely putting myself out there a lot more. Even just like I would have never, like, there's certain things that I know that I would have done this year that I never would have. And I think part of that was jumping on the team. I threw myself in the deep end there. I knew that we were going to be scrutinized so fucking heavily all year because of this fucking us first mayhem narrative that was forced.
Were you if you expected that to happen, that storyline, were you expecting it to happen as consistently and as concentrated as it did? Like, were you expecting that to be the entire narrative of the season? Like, because it was.
And I think I posted a couple of times. I was like, I think I posted a couple of things about. I think there's a lot of teams that deserve more recognition than they're getting, and also that I'm fucking sick of the narrative. And there was. Like Mayhem posted, it was actually a pretty cool video. And like, I'm all for trash talk. Fuck me, I grew up playing rugby. Like, talking shit about CrossFit does not bother me in the slightest. In fact, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's cool when everyone's able to kind of do that. But they posted a video and it had like little snippets of people being like, oh, Mayhem's, their year's done, Annie's team's going to win, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like them winning. And like, obviously, we didn't even fucking podium. And then some of the comments from people, like there was one guy that even tagged myself and the rest of the team, was just like, you guys talk too much. Hope you learnt your lesson here. And I was going to be like, you absolute stupid cunt. Like, you are the epitome of a dumb fuck. And I knew that I would have to deal with people like that. I'm like, first of all, if you're interviewed and someone asks you a question, you're supposed to answer. What was you supposed to say? Just like not mention? That narrative was forced on us from day dot. And that's fine. Because
But imagine how much worse it would have been if they were like, so going against me, no, I don't want to talk about that. That would have seemed more arrogant of like, oh, he won't even talk about them.
Well, what were we supposed to say? I always tried to be really respectful and be like, hey, look, Mayhem's the fucking best and they've been the best for a long period of time. It's going to take a hell of a fucking something to happen for us to be able to beat them. I'm certainly not going in here thinking we've got this in the bag, but fuck, let's try and make it. All we wanted to do was make it interesting, give the people a show, make the teams interesting. Mayhem still ran away with it, but I feel like teams was a lot more interesting this year. And not just because of us, because there were 5 or 6 really fucking good teams that made for a great competition in that division. I think what you're going to see now is more and more teams, because of the publicity that our little fucking rivalry, let's call it, with Mayhem, brilliant marketing move on CrossFit's part if they want to build the team division. You watch, I guarantee you, teams is going to explode next year, especially if Mayhem step down and now all of a sudden that affiliate cup is up for grabs. I guarantee you, based on how much attention teams got this year, which was heavily driven by that narrative of Reykjavik versus Mayhem, it is going to help that team division. So whatever, I don't fucking know this guy's at, but whatever, like if you are that stupid to think that we were sitting there going, we're going to fucking beat Mayhem, we're going, like, you're a dumb fuck and you don't fucking understand sports. Like, this is the thing. Like at the start of the season, I was really concerned about what people were going to say because I knew that narrative would be played, and because at the start of the season, I didn't have that confidence in myself and my ability necessarily. I was like, fuck, they're right. They're going to be like, why the fuck did she pick this guy? Like, he's useless. He's has been. He's whatever. He's not that great an athlete. He never was. And now I'm like, nah, like, you have no fucking idea where I'm at now as an athlete, you stupid cunt on your computer or whatever it is, telephone. Like, come at me with that shit. I like it now. I'm for it now because I just look at these people and I'm like, you are a dopey cunt. And it's as simple as that, because I don't know, that to me is just like, oh man, people are just so stupid. And rather than letting shit like that make me question myself as an athlete, I mean, I still plenty of things that I got to work on. There's still plenty of things that I'm like, oh, I could do better at this. I could do better at that. I'm still constantly trying to improve as a human being. That I'm super passionate about. I'm still trying to improve as an athlete, but I'm on the right path. And I'm proud of the effort that I've put into this season, irrespective of the outcome. I'm proud of the growth that I've experienced as an athlete. And yeah, it's funny, like comments like that back in the day would have made me be like, oh, start to question my character, question my self-worth, question that. And now, yeah, like I genuinely just look at people that, I mean, if someone gives me constructive criticism, I'm the first to take it on board. I'll get comments in like posts that I'll put up and people will criticize and I'll engage in a conversation because I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm all about constructive criticism. I think that we are living in an age, particularly with social media, where people are too fucking hell bent on defending their own position, that it's more about defending their position than actually growing and learning and changing. And I think it's a really dangerous mindset to have, not to be open to criticism, not to be open to differing opinions to yours, not to be open to having your beliefs challenged and changed even. And again, it's just something that I'm hugely for. Change my beliefs about something, change my mind about something. Please try to, if you genuinely believe that I'm wrong, because I'm so aware of the fact that I do have these biases and I don't know everything about anything. I know fuck all about most things. So please try to change my mind on that. But don't be a dumb cunt and leave some stupid like I read these things and I'm like, these people don't think, like don't use their brain. And then I just go, fuck. Like it's comical at this point. But yeah, that narrative was cool, but it was like, I mean, I really enjoyed competing against them on the weekend. I always enjoy competing against Rich. I have a lot of respect for the guy, and we got to compete against each other a bunch of times. It's the first time I really met Sam, and he was great too. Like we chatted a bit afterwards, and a lot of respect for him. It'd be really cool to see what he does as an individual. And those two girls are fantastic too. Like they are just so fucking good. I don't know. I go out of my way to make sure that I get to know the competitors, at least in the heat that I'm competing in, and try to sort of, at least try and have a conversation with all of them. And so whilst that narrative was pushed, I never went into the weekend with any kind of chip on my shoulder against any other team.
Did you ever talk about, because obviously you did the open announcement, and there was a lot of talk at it during the interviews there and during the kind of promo for that and the like afterwards of it. And then at semifinals, it's like you have this kind of like clean sweep at semifinals, and then that kind of ramps up the like, oh geez, like they won they're definitely going to chat, and like that, then that's the narrative. And then coming up to the games, there was like Miles to Madison episodes, there was like that video, I don't know, was it on a Miles to Madison one, or I think it was on Miles to Madison that Torrin did, of like Rich saying, oh, now we're going to embarrass you or whatever. And that clip was played and it was like put out everywhere. Like, do you guys as a team and with Yami and stuff, do you talk about that? Or is that just on you as individuals to adopt your attitude of like, oh, yeah, this is just a narrative, it's fine?
We spoke about that briefly. Again, though, like for me, like if that's upsetting, someone saying that, I think you got to have a thicker skin than that. I mean, I grew up playing rugby. I was called just about every name, word, and insult under the sun when you'd have a bad game. But you'd have your coaches yelling at halftime. And I'm also of the belief that, like, no matter how badly someone else insults me, I've probably said worse things to myself. Like just having that kind of self-deprecative nature. No matter how poorly someone thinks of me, I think worse of myself. So there's always that. So I think I actually commented underneath that, like, jokes on you, Rich. I've been embarrassing myself for 32 years. So. But like, for me, I love that rhetoric. I love that. I love that banter. I love that, got to be able to take it if you're going to dish it out as well. And there were some ideas floated around about some funny things that we could do in retaliation. We decided to not go down that path. But I don't know. It's a precarious line to tread because I don't know. I don't think the CrossFit world is ready for decent shit talking. Because
no, I think there's been a history of, I think the Matt versus Rich thing is what causes it. But there's like very precious, like you talk about that, like you have to defend your position. That's CrossFit fandom of like, no, he's the best. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be our best. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
but he's the best. And it's like, all right, okay, forget about it. You know, and I
Yeah.
think that spreads where you can't shit talk. You can't like slag someone
fuck,
off.
the UFC has press conferences, which is literally designed for the fighters to sit there and trash talk each other, and people go crazy for it. Yet Rich says, we want to embarrass you, and people are like, oh, that's out of line, and blah, 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 blah. And then old mate today's, well, you talked too much, Khan, and he told Lauren, I hope you learned your lesson. I'm like, no, fuck, I'm going to be louder and more obnoxious because what they did in that post was shit talk, was trash talk us. Like, you said you were going to try and challenge us, and we fucking flogged you. Awesome. Like, that's cool. I love that shit. I think that adds elements of like, we're a sport. Make it sport. God, like, you don't see the rugby players sitting there before, like, they fucking trash talk each other. And
if you do start trash talking more, you should tag that guy in all the videos or all the posts.
Fuck yeah. It's got to be underpinned by two things, though, I think, for it to be legit. One is respect. And I think that is I think CrossFit dipped its toes in the water with the Mayhem Reykjavik rivalry this year. I think that was their first foray into kind of trying to create a narrative of, these two rivals, and allow for that little bit of trash talk and that little bit of kind of, we're going to get them. We're going to get, who do they think they are? And fuck, we've got the talent. That was the CrossFit's first attempt to allow for that narrative to take place. And like I said, I just don't think the community is necessarily there yet, because there's so many cool storylines this year as well. But I think, I think a lot of the diehards and stuff, like, they're just like, I think people take it people that aren't the athletes take it personally.
Yeah, they're offended on their behalf, kind of.
Yeah, which then creates that weird dynamic where it's like, I knew that when I saw Rich at the games, I was going to be able to say good day to him and have a joke with him. Same thing for the rest of the teams and stuff there. I knew that going into that environment, there was going to be zero tension, well, at least for me anyway. There's going to be zero tension between me and the other teams and the other people there. There was going to be competitive energy. That goes part and parcel with the territory. There was going to be, we want to fucking beat each other. That's part of being a competitor. But that tension is created and felt by the fans, I think, more so than the athletes. And that's where I think that our sport, I don't know, because there hasn't really ever been trash talking or like a rivalry set up like that, without it being like the kind of the joking one that I think Fikowski and those guys, which I always used to think was fantastic, but way too tame. I always thought like there hasn't been that before, and I don't think people knew how to respond. And Mayhem has built a dynasty. They have diehard fucking Mayhem fans who just went for us from day dot. The shit that they would say to us, like messaging us and all this kind of stuff, because they have those diehard fans, and they really thought they took it personally. Like, they thought that we were saying we're going to challenge Mayhem was somehow us being like, Mayhem shit, we fucking hate them. I'm like, you learn, you realize that you can't reason with these people, and that they're just passionate human beings. And I'm a passionate human being too about plenty of things. So fuck.
It's black and whiteism. It's like you're with us or against us. I think that's
exactly.
That's
it's the polarity of the world these days that speaks volumes to the way the world is. I mean, everything is this side or that. No one can
gray.
No one's allowed to exist in the grey. You pick a side and you die by the sword defending that side, or everyone hates you.
In the couple of days previous to the games, the day before especially, there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about Lauren, that Lauren was injured, that Catchum was going to try and be drafted in, but that it was too late or it couldn't happen or whatever, that you were going to have to pull out, that like, it was, from my perspective, like, I was kind of giving my wife updates on it, we'll say, and I was like, there's a lot of talk, like, none of it coming from Reykjavik, but there's a lot of talk, and I don't know how much truth there is to any of it. I don't know if any of it's true. I mean, I'm seeing videos of her lifting and she looks absolutely fine. And then I'm hearing comments of like, they're going to pull out, like, oh, it's definitely going to happen and all this kind of stuff. Like, are you guys, because obviously you're busy, so you're doing like you're moving and you're training and you're getting ready or whatever, you've got like check-in, all that kind of stuff. Like, is there a point in the day where you guys look at your phone and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Or like did you know that this was being talked about?
Yes. So I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to say, but like has been now, and the outcome was the outcome. So the day that the first big training session that we had when we arrived in Michigan, we were doing this interval workout, and it was 10 rounds, I believe. And on round like 7 or 8, Lauren just went down. She was in tears, and she'd done something to her like lat shoulder area. I don't know exactly what it was, but she was in tears, down on the ground in tears. And this is maybe 2.5 weeks out from the games when we got into the US in Michigan. And so I'm not sure. It was like one of those situations where we're all kind of, I had my own breathing issues that I was dealing with in that start of it. Everyone's acclimatizing, the heat, all this kind of stuff. We've got our own shit to worry about. Lauren's kind of tweaked something, and we just kind of didn't think too much of it. And so we modified the training for the first week, where she was doing the things that she could do. It was effectively just her pulling gymnastics and then certain worm movements she couldn't do. So she didn't really she did what she could do. So and that's why she was posting all the stuff of her lifting. She was squatting. She was doing the lifting that she could do, doing the gymnastics that she could do, but she wasn't able to train with the team because we were doing a bunch of stuff. And it was getting a little bit better, but it wasn't getting much better. So Kat was our legal alternate. Kat was on paper. Basically, you have a male and a female alternate. Our male was Frederick and our female was Katrin. Because she didn't qualify for the games, she was able to, after the semifinals, be put in as our alternate. And we did, just on the off chance that something terrible did happen and she was going to be able to. So fast forward, that's a full week that she's out from pulling gymnastics. She's getting a lot of treatment. We're doing like all sort of like treatment over the phone, all this kind of stuff. The week after that, we'd kind of spoken and we knew that Kat was our alternate. And we were thinking about whether or like, did we have to make a challenging decision and put Kat in instead of Lauren based on where she was at? So that decision just kept getting pushed back. First, it was going to be made on the Tuesday the week before we went to the game. So the Tuesday week before the games. And then it was going to be the Thursday the week before the games. Then when Lauren was still unable to do a lot of the movements pain-free, now it wasn't she couldn't do them. It was pain-free and her wanting to probably be very careful so as not to actually worsen it. Because more than anything else in the world, she wanted to compete. She absolutely wanted to compete. Like she had made the same sacrifices you had made, and her fiance was in a different country all the time that she was over there. Exactly. It's not like it's not like she just kind of.
I assume that's why the decision was pushed, because you don't want to take that away from someone, and then close to the time they'll be like, "Oh, actually, I feel okay."
Yeah, exactly. And so we flew Katrin in to training camp in Michigan. And then Kat jumped in and she trained with us just on the off chance we're going to have to make that call. So Kat trained with us for 4 days, I want to say, before we went to Madison. And then it was basically this decision just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back about what we were going to be doing with like whether it was going to be Lauren or Kat. We were kind of saying that like we didn't really like Lauren told us that she was going to be fine and promised us like this should be okay and all this kind of stuff. And then Katrin was fantastic throughout the whole thing. Like she knew that coming in there was a chance that she wouldn't be in the team, and there's so many layers to how that decision was made. But ultimately, we were told by the doctor that assessed her the day of check-in that she was medically going to be okay, and that he gave her 90%. She was 97% better. which seems like an arbitrary number to me, that they basically just pull out their ass to be like, hey, we can't say 100% because if she does fuck her shoulder, then we look like idiots. He was basically like, if she's saying she's okay and she's ready to go, medically, I believe she's okay and she's ready to go. And that was our decision made for us. And so that's why we went ahead and did the team exactly as had been the team for the entire 6 months. That was who we were always going to take the floor with. That became another annoying narrative almost, where it was like, oh, she's injured and that's why they're doing badly and all this stuff. It wasn't. Like, we placed where we placed and we did what we could do under a variety of different circumstances. There's arguments that could be made for her not having really done a bunch of certain movements leading into it and all that kind of stuff. But, ultimately it was a really, really challenging decision. I remember Tola and I were just sitting in my room 30 minutes after we were meant to check in. The two of us were just sitting in my room together, just fucking looking out the window, being like, and we had no idea at this stage literally who we were going to go. We knew we were going to get a message that said go downstairs, and we were going to get into the elevator, and we were going to get out of that elevator. It was going to be Annie, and that's all we knew at this point in time. So we went down, and there was Lauren, and that was it. That was our team, and we're fully committed to going forward with that. And I personally was not concerned for her injury based on what we'd been told by the medical experts and everything like that. And yeah, that's how we pressed on. That is that story.
Like, is it annoying that it was out? Is it annoying to you that people knew, and that's like, because someone obviously told someone and then told other people, and everyone seemed to know about it.
We were training at a gym with people who, knew people. I know for a fact, I know people knew, and I know people were stressing out about whether we were going to sub Cat in. And that was kind of funny to hear sort of the rumor mill churning and people being like, wait, can they do that? Oh my God, like what's going to happen? And, to know that was a viable option. But in my opinion, the right decision was was if Lauren was fit and healthy, we go with that. That was our team, and that was what we did. But yeah, I mean, it was annoying, but it was more annoying because I am such a big believer. I wanted us to compete, and I wanted our performance to be the focal point. I wanted our hard work to be showcased. I wanted us to have to, if we didn't do well, I didn't want an out. I didn't want it to be like because I hate that. I hate that because in the past, I've definitely looked for that. In the past, I would have definitely wanted to be like, well, Lauren was injured and blah, blah, blah. But fucking hate that. I'm not about that anymore. And I wanted our performance to be what we were judged on, none of the other bullshit and noise. And so that was the only thing that frustrated me about that situation. I didn't want people sitting there, first of all, on one side being like, it's because of this and it's because of that. It wasn't ideal, but no, I mean, like my ankle is still fucked. Everyone has shit going on leading into the games. I think actually Rich and I had a good conversation about this after an event. It was like, if no one is 100% healthy when you're competing in CrossFit, if you're 100% healthy competing in CrossFit, something's going on. There's something fishy about that. You can be the healthiest you can possibly be, but yeah, like everyone's always got little niggles here and there, and it's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I didn't want that whole situation and the drama around that to detract from our performance being the focal point. And honestly, barring that one event where we took the 30th place, I think we did really well.
Yeah.
I was really proud of the team's effort on a lot of things. I was proud of my own efforts, and I was phenomenally proud of the team stepping up in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, I remember when we chatted at Strength and Depth and we were talking about running, and I know that you were like, cautious about, say, other teams, and you kind of mentioned at the time how there is that story of Mayhem versus Iceland, and you were like, I mean, there's some pretty fucking good other teams. Like you were like Oslo, like you were kind of mentioned a few teams like Selwyn. Hi, this is my kid.
Hey, little one. Why?
But you were talking about those other teams, and you were saying how, like, that's the concern. You were like, you can finish first, you can finish second, that's fine. But you were like, you don't even get one bad result. You don't get one, like if you slip up once, it's over. Like you'd be lucky to get on the podium, which unfortunately is the way that it transpired. You slipped up once, you had a bad result, and it cost, like, because all your other results, as you say, consistent, like very consistent across the board everywhere else, and it's just that one blip is what cost you on Sunday, basically. What's the mood like? Like, say if you're going out to that, are you walking out to that event being like, oh fuck, pulling gymnastics, oh shit, like this is gonna be a test? And then afterwards, are you like, is it difficult to pick yourselves up, or are you just like, right, okay, next one?
We were pretty confident that we would finish at least top 2 on that, based on how we performed in CrossFit style tests comparative to the field. It had been us and Mayhem that had gone. If you looked at kind of the other very CrossFit-y style tests, which was like that mix of gymnastics and capacity and whatever, we're pretty confident going into that. Lauren had said that Lauren was really confident in her dipping ability in her dips going into that. Like, she sort of told us that they were one of her better movements. The way that we were moving the first 2 rounds, so I went and did the dips and I came back and we were doing the burpees, we were so comfortably ahead that there was no doubt in our minds that we were going to win that workout. Tola talks about it as well. So Lauren went to do the dips and Tola went to the pegboard. And Tola said he was climbing that pegboard going, fuck yeah, finishing the day with an event win. This will be awesome. And he came back down from the pegboard, and obviously, it's just not how it went down. I don't know. I think go and watch the live stream back and you get a pretty clear understanding of how we felt in that moment. It was phenomenally challenging. It was, in that moment itself, it was so hard. Like, I kept thinking in my head over and over again, holy shit, it's the last 6 months of your life gone. Like, this is what's happening right now, and it's event 2. And I knew that the way that the teams played out, it's kind of like, okay, you could maybe bomb an event and take like a 10th, but none of those top teams was going to finish outside the top 10 really ever. It was just the field isn't deep enough yet that you can, like the individual field, you could have a 25th place and bounce back from that and still podium or whatever. The teams feel it's not that deep yet. So, I mean, we had one other blowout where we fucked everything up, which was the synchro double under workout. That didn't go to plan. We finished 5th. There was a massive blowout, massive fuck up. We finished 5th. That's kind of where we should have been for a blowout, we believe. And so, to just watch that happening and to be helpless, like we're standing there with the worm, and there's some choice photos that our photographer got during it. It's probably one of the hardest things I've experienced as an athlete, because we were completely helpless. But second to that was just the amount of, like, I just felt for Lauren, and I felt for her because I've fucked up before. I've not done well as an individual. I've made mistakes when I was playing rugby and like let her try, and like no one wants to be in that position. It is a really horrible position to be in, knowing that there had been so much talk about, her fitness to be able to compete with her shoulder and all that sort of stuff. My heart was breaking for her in that moment. But at the same time, it was really, really challenging. And it was really challenging in the hours after that event. We all took some time to ourselves. We kind of got together as a group and we had conversations, and then we went and had a conversation with Lauren, and we just kind of had conversations with everyone. And the decision was made that, I mean, you can't do it. Like a 30th place was irreparable, in our opinion. So there was a level of almost, in a weird way, there was a level of the pressure was now off, because we were not digging ourselves out of the hole of 30th place. And then we took 2 good finishes in the lifting event and the running event. Now, the running event was the best event of the whole fucking weekend for our team. I was so proud of them. And then we were in 5th. That kind of looked like points-wise, we would probably stay in 5th. I didn't see us taking any more poor finishes. And then same thing with that. And then we still managed to climb up to 4th. And then to have even climbed on that last day to where it was, we were within a shot of podiuming is fucking unbelievable considering we took that 30th place, which is why I say if you take that test out of the conversation, devastating. In terms of how we performed, I'm so proud. Now, doesn't mean that I don't sit there and think about fucking. I don't think we would have beat Mayhem. They were a league of their own. Full credit to them, and that's my genuine opinion. But I think we could have been in the mix for second. I think we should have been in the mix for at least the podium, which I guess we were in the end. But yeah,
see, the issue is, like you say, those top teams are fairly set in stone, like those top, say, 10. But then the issue is, if you're in a position like yours and you're relying on teams to come between you and other teams, it's the same as the last day on the individual side, on the male side, say. It's like, okay, well, maybe he could. And it's like, well, hang on. A lot of people are going to have to, and it's people that haven't been finishing in between. Like, that's the issue you're into.
Exactly. We needed someone to bomb. And other teams bombed. Like, there was a couple of events that like certain other teams bombed, like Oslo kind of bombed the swim or whatever it is, but they bombed and took 8th. That's the thing. And we kind of knew that like we needed someone to bomb and take a 15th in that top 3 or a 20th in that top 3. Or we needed our 30th to have been a 15th or something like that instead. That's sports, man. Like, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and it's a bitter pill to swallow, and it'll be a bitter pill to swallow for a while. I'm sure it will be a really challenging thing to think about, and a lot of people have sort of said, how do you feel? How do you feel? And it's like I oscillate between being like, well, I'm really proud of my own performance. I'm really proud of how the team was able to kind of rally and perform pretty much across the board. I would say I can think of maybe 2 other mistakes we made in the entire competition, which is pretty fucking good when you think about it. But maybe 3. But like, here's my friend. He arrived. That's just.
Is it going to be as cute an intervention as when my kid came in? That's the real question.
Debatable. I'll catch up with you in a bit. So it was about but like that's sports, and the sting will be there for a while, but fuck.
But if there was no sting, there'd be something wrong. If you were just like, yeah, that's fine, there'd be something. There's a problem.
Exactly right. And look, it is just sports. It just is what it is, man. Like, fuck, you can't. Once that happened, and it happened so early, it was just kind of like. Well, I think I sat with myself and I thought about the night beforehand. So the night before the competition, I made myself a list of things that I could control. Because being in a team environment, there are so many unknown variables. But competition in general throws a bunch of unknown variables at you. But I wanted to make sure that I did everything within my capacity to show up and put my best foot forward and put my best performance forward. So I made a list of the things that I could control. And I just kind of went back to that when I had some time on my own at the end of the day. I just sort of sat, and I was staying with my parents, and they knew to give me a wide berth to give me a bit of space.
Well, they were obviously just reminding you that participation is all that matters. So that's fine.
No, they're well beyond that now. Like, they very, very different mindsets now. They were very much yes, and so I sat and I just went back to that, and I was like, well, what can you continue to control for the rest of the weekend? You can't control the outcome. You are where you are. You have the points that you are. We're in 17th after day 1. You cannot go. Like, there's nothing you can do now that can go back and change that. But you can show up, and you can do your best to inspire like positivity amongst the team. You can do your best to make sure that everything is done to the best of your ability in each workout. And I did. As I said, I'm phenomenally proud of my efforts throughout the weekend. I'm phenomenally proud of our team's efforts over the course of the weekend, barring that event. Just sucks that happened, but it's fucking sports, man. Like, everyone has this is what happens.
Yeah, like you talk about being proud, and it's like the alternative scenario is like you bomb that event and subsequent events. You know, like you argue, you fall apart, you like snipe at each other, like things. Arms get thrown up on the the skip and workout, on the swimming. Everything is fuck's sake, of course. You know, like so. The way that you handled it is the best possible way you could have handled it. You know, like all the other alternatives are worse than what it happened in the end. You know, like so. I think that's a point of pride anyway.
Absolutely, and I think that's a testament to, fucking hell, we were 4 strangers that were put together in a scenario, just forced to basically live on top of each other for 6 months, and we were still able to have something like that happen and rally to come back together and still put ourselves in the conversation on the final day for a podium. Fuck yeah, massive win. And I had a really good conversation with Annie and Yami about we talked through a bunch of various scenarios that could happen over the course of the games with Lauren's potential injury and all these kind of things. And it was actually a very emotional conversation. There was a few tears from all parties. And I spoke about how much I have gained from the last 6 months as an athlete, as a human being. And no part of me, yes, I'm still bitter about the placing that we took and, the missed opportunities and even just like from a completely fucking financial perspective, if we took second, we got 50 grand more than taking fourth. It's a bit of money. But I still won in so many ways this year. And that's not some bullshit, like this is how I'm going to reframe the situation to make it okay. I said that before we took that place. I said that 2 days before, and I told Annie and Yami why. Them particularly, but all of the group changed my life this year. And that's, I mean, you can't, like, I don't give a we could have come 22nd. And I still would have walked away fundamentally a different, better person, better human being because of that experience. So, not the result that we wanted by any stretch of the word, but I don't regret a thing.
Okay, so you've kind of said that you're 99% sure that you're going back to Reykjavik, Iceland. And that you're going in it for the long haul. So you're going in it for winter, spring, open, quarterfinals, I assume, and then presumably, I guess it depends what avenue you take. You'll either have to go home for Torian or whatever semifinals over there if you're going individual, or else you'll be staying in Iceland until games, I guess, if you're going team. When are you expected to or expecting to decide which you're doing?
So, I mean, Yami wants to be back as soon as possible. He even floated October, being as soon as getting back there in October. I don't know. I don't know when the decision is expected to be made.
Are you leaning like?
I would have said that I was leaning very heavily towards individual. Until we bombed, and now I feel like there is an element of unfinished business.
Yeah.
But then there's also the other element of like, Rich retire. I mean, especially if Rich retires the Mayhem team, like then there's potentially the top of the podium up for grabs. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It changes, and it will be impacted and influenced by the decision of other team members as well. Like it's not to redo the team takes 4 to 6 people to make that choice. And that's the 4 team members plus our 2 coaches, Yami and Frederick. So yeah, like that will be an influencing factor. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm 32. I'm not getting any younger. I don't know how much longer I would have to go all in as an individual, whether I would get another opportunity to, if it's not the next 12 months. I don't know if I would want to. And yeah, I don't know. Like I had a conversation with a very close friend of mine, Matt, back home, and he just basically said, he goes, you'll never be able to hang up the boots and actually move on from being an athlete until you've actually gone all in on it for 12 months and fulfilled your potential. It doesn't matter about where you place. He's like, you need to be able to walk away from a year where you gave everything and know that you gave everything and that you ended up in the place that you deserved, whether it's even making the games or whatever it is. And I think, he's a dude who knows me pretty well, and I think he's pretty spot on. So, yeah, I don't know. That's something that has been weighing heavily on my mind, but we'll see. We'll see what the general consensus is amongst everyone and see how we go from there.
Yeah, it's like kind of heartbreaking the way hearing you, because like when you say that you've never walked away from the games proud of everything that you did, like you want that solo as well. You want that of like, I went on my own and walked away proud of everything that I did, and I was in control of everything, not just the things I could control, but like everything was in my control.
Yeah, I was close. I was close in 2018. I went because I missed the game. I missed the games in 2017, and that was a big shifting point for me. And I went. That was the hardest I'd ever trained and the most diligent I'd been with food and with not boozing. But it was still amateur compared to what I've done the last 6 months. It was still not even close. I was still going out. I was still missing sessions. I was training really fucking hard, like harder than I'd ever trained before. I was writing my own programming. I didn't have a coach. Like there was still a lot that I wasn't doing right, even though I'd put a lot of effort in. And that was probably the proudest I'd been after games. And it wasn't an amazing finish like it was, but at the same time, like it was, I was still proud, but knowing what I'm capable of, and I don't mean knowing what I'm capable of in terms of performance, knowing what I'm capable of doing in terms of following a routine, sticking to a program, getting coached, improving, and knowing how much I could improve on, seeing how much I could improve on, dialing in nutrition and all that sort of stuff. I mean, fuck, just the way I eat's completely different now. I'm actually eating to fuel myself for performance, not like a fucking idiot, not like a 2-year-old with too much money, like a fucking 12-year-old that's allowed to have McDonald's for dinner and lunch if he wants both. But it's cool, and I think it would be really hard to not do that for a season as an individual, whether it's next year or whether it's in the future after that. Yeah, it's something that I do genuinely believe I have to do at some point before I'll be able to retire and do it. I don't think I'll ever retire. I think I'll just go back to making training less of a priority, and whether that can still compete as a master or whether it means I can still compete on a team, I don't know. But it would just mean that training's not my priority. But it'd be interesting to see what ends up happening.
Off-season competitions then, Australian Championships, Wildapalooza, Dubai. Have you got like a list? Have you talked about it?
I really want to do Dubai, but the qualifier is the day I get home from my boat trip. So I'm on a boat for 12 days surfing. So I'm trying to just do classes while I can, training here. But I think it's going to be a really popular qualifier. So unless they
send out invites sometimes though, so maybe
sometimes, I don't know if they are this year. If I can get a cheeky invite, and if you guys are listening, if I can get a cheeky invite, that'd be sick. I mean, that's the one comp I've wanted to do more than any. And then I'll just kind of map things out from there. I think like there's a lot of cool comps. Madrid's offered me a spot, but that's again the weekend after I finish my boat trip. I'd love to do the Down Under Champs that's happening just to compete against those boys as well. That would be really, really fun. If I can swing that, that's probably the one that I'm the most likely to be able to do end of November, just depending on when I go back to Iceland. But I'm also fairly committed to fulfilling some obligations for sponsors and stuff like that. So, and training as well. Like my priority is not going to be doing off-season competitions. It's going to be training for the 2023 season. I will probably do Wildapalooza though.
Most likely. And James?
Yeah, Matt and James. Yeah, I think the boys are good for that.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Okay. Well, look, thanks for coming back on. It's been great to catch up with you. It's great seeing you so yourself, I think, and so just confident. And congrats on the season. I know it didn't pan out exactly as planned, but I think, you know, the ability to walk away with your head held high is not often reached for a lot of people. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely something you can take.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a new feeling, and it's a cool feeling, and it's a feeling I look forward to hopefully rolling through the 2023 season.